recording is going, so we'll begin. I just want to welcome everyone this afternoon to the program. My name is Meg Wager, and I'm the Associate Director here in the Career and Professional Development Center. Today, we welcome our guest speakers, Chelsea Cerutti Ducharme, class of 2012, and Joseph O'Rourke, class of 2015, from the New York State Court of Appeals, as well as Beth Lifshin, class of 1997, with the New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division, 3rd Department. This discussion is an opportunity for you to learn about the clerkship opportunities that are currently available with the courts. For 3Ls, deadlines are fast approaching. So we want to kind of go over everything with you today and make sure that we answer all of your questions. Please feel free to ask questions using the chat feature or by raising your virtual hand, and I'll keep an eye on things. So for now, Beth, I'm going to turn things over to you. Great.
Thanks, Meg. Hi, everybody. Thanks for spending some time to talk about clerkships. I'll just share right up front that myself, Chelsea, and Joey. It's okay, Joe. Is that okay, Joe? So still okay, Joey, right? All worked
Joey's
together. Yeah, all together in here at the 3rd Department. We've the program that I'm going to talk to you about, the appellate court attorney ACA clerkship at the 3rd Department. We all went through the program, and as a lot of people here at the 3rd Department did go through this this clerkship. But what the 3rd Department has as part of its law research department is that we hire approximately 10 attorneys to spend a year in the court's law research department in the clerkship, the pool clerkship. Doing extensive research and writing for the court. The clerkship runs from August through August, and so we are currently recruiting right now for the clerkship to start in next August, in August 2023. We've been doing this clerkship for a really long time, as I mentioned, and as Meg said, I became an ACA with the 3rd Department right out of law school when I graduated in 1997. Hiring approximately 10 every year for as long as we've been doing it, which is more than half a century. There are a lot of attorneys, both who have stayed local or have moved on to do many things that started off their career as ACAs with the 3rd Department. When I recruit and go out and interview for people for this position, when I describe what the job is, I always make sure I emphasize that what you need to know about the job is it's all research and writing. It's an appellate court, so it's the law research department. We don't have answer phone calls from attorneys or clients. It's all in the books, research and writing, and being able to look into all areas of the law, because the 3rd Department's jurisdiction is so vast. We see all different types of cases, all criminal, civil, a lot of administrative cases, Court of Claims cases, everything. We have direct appeals that come to us, only the 3rd Department, from unemployment insurance and workers' compensation cases. They come only to this department. And then again, because of our location in Albany, we see a good number of administrative cases, Article 78 cases, that can only come to the 3rd Department. So as a result of that, what we have appellate court attorneys do is that we assign cases to a case at a time to a court attorney, and ask that attorney to work independently to do their own extensive research on all of the legal issues that are presented to the court, sometimes even issues that are not raised, but if they're jurisdictional issues that we have to look into, and then become an expert on that law that maybe you've never seen before and you've never had any experience with before, and then write a comprehensive, accurate, detail, very attention to detail memorandum that is then used by the court. And the work is, your work would be, you would be working with a particular judge. Instead, you'd be working, your work would be seen by all of the judges on the court. Currently, we have 10 judges. And so what changes about the job, what changes, it's really intensive research and writing. So the first thing I always say is we want to make sure people, really enjoy that work or really want to do that for, exclusively for a long period of time, because for people who really like to research and write, it's the perfect job. But sometimes I think people maybe think they like to research and write, and they spend a year doing it, and they're like, okay, now I'm ready for something different. Because what changes about the job, honestly, is the cases, and and they do change every couple days after after your deadline comes. You turn it in, you get another case, and it's going to be completely different from the case that you worked on previously. Which I think is what makes this job so, it's very challenging, every couple days to have to become an expert on a different area of law. It's really challenging. And then also, I think personally, it's the best job I could ever have wanted coming out of law school. The clerk of the court and I, when we do interviews, we always talk about how it's kind of like a fourth year of law school, but you get paid for it because you learn so much. I still learn a lot every day after 25 years. We don't specialize. We don't have a particular person working on just these type of cases. So I think that's what people enjoy. One of the things people enjoy about this particular clerkship is because if you don't necessarily know what area of law comes next, after the year you spend with the court, what do you want to do? This job and sometimes will define that for people. And sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I thought I came in thinking I only wanted to do criminal. And then I spent, a year doing a little bit of everything. And now there's this whole type of law that I really had no exposure to. So it's research and writing. Again, it's important to know that you're going to be working, doing memorandum for the entire court, and you get to see the case as it goes through the whole process, which I think also people really enjoy. Um, and that's the program. I can't undersell it because clerking clerking in general is the only thing I ever wanted to do as a lawyer. I started out as an ACA in this program, and then I always stayed on for a second year, which I'll just talk about in a minute. But during my second year with the court, I was hired by a newly elected trial court judge, and I clerked for him for his term. He ended up coming back to the Appellate Division as an appellate judge, so I got to actually be his personal law clerk on the Appellate Division. And then when he retired, I clerked for another judge who was on the Appellate Division, who then got elevated to the Court of Appeals. And that's when I said, no, I'm just kidding. I didn't make a change at that point. And when Judge Stein went to the Court of Appeals, I came onto staff at the Appellate Division and no longer was clerking, but now I help supervise the law research department. And so I get to see it from a different perspective and work with the appellate court attorneys. And I just think it's a great program. I can't oversell it, honestly. It's something near and dear to my heart, and it always will be. And it's I think it's well regarded in the legal community that when people go through the program, I think it means something on resumes. I think it's very clear that you will start off, you will end the program as a much better researcher and writer than where you begin, because again, we work so hard to make sure that we're bringing people in who really want to continue those skills and enjoy that objective research and writing. It is a one-year program. That is different. I know Joe and Chelsea will talk about the two-year program, but the third department, unlike the Court of Appeals and unlike the fourth department, who also have these pool clerkship programs, our clerkship is a one-year program. We've been doing it that way for pretty much the entirety of how long that we've had the ACAs come to law research. It works. We think as a result of having it be 1 year, I think we are able to offer the position to more people. More people come in. We can hire more people if we're only having people stay for a year. I also think that not everybody wants to do this work for 2 years. I think some people, me, never wanted to do anything else other than clerk, but not everybody wants to do that. Some people appreciate that spending a year clerking, doing extensive research and writing is a great starting point for what's next. And so having it for a year is not obviously is not as long as of a commitment. We do ask a couple people to stay on for a second year each year. That the number of how many people that stay on changes. Sometimes it can be one, sometimes it can be more, a couple. It just depends upon where we are, what the recruiting process is, and what the court's needs are. So, but there is that some opportunity for a second year for some people, but that does differ from the other clerkships, the Court of Appeals and the fourth department. And then the first and the second departments, they have permanent attorneys. They don't have a similar rotating clerkship program that upstate's appellate courts do. I think, I don't know how you want to, if you want me to talk about the application process now, or does that make sense just to keep finishing up?
I think so, Beth. And what I'll do is for everyone, I'm going to place the web address in the chat right now, so that as Beth is talking, you can grab a copy of this as well. Okay.
Great. So we are at the end of our application process. So our posting has been up. We traditionally put it up sometime middle of the summer, and we keep it open for a couple months. And the original posting date was set to close in the middle of September, and we did extend it until by a couple weeks. So our closing date is actually this Friday. And for those of you who are on this call who are 2Ls, I would just, if you're interested I would say just look at the website next summer. It's usually in July that we'll put it up, and then again it'll stay open for till at least mid-September. Sorry about that. So the process is, you would go to our website, and it will give you, as Meg just put up the link, there's an employment opportunities page. Right now we have a couple employments, but this particular posting talks about appellate court attorney 26, an associate appellate court attorney. It's the same posting, but what that means is for people who are not yet admitted to the bar, they would be applying for the assistant appellate court attorney position, because the qualification for an appellate court attorney is admission to the bar. And then, so traditionally what happens is people apply they graduate in May, they'll apply in July as they're preparing and then taking the bar. I'm sorry, I'm getting myself confused. This is a year before. So if people, in your second year, you would be, at the end of your second year, you would look for the posting and apply. I'll come back to the starting and then the bar. What we're looking for is, we need a cover letter, we need a resume, we need a transcript, law school transcript, and we do need a writing sample, self-edited writing sample. For those people who are considering applying for this year, the deadline is on Friday, and certainly I would encourage strongly encourage you to do it if you have an interest. The process after Friday we have a two-step interviewing process. We will, at some point after the posting closes, we will go through the resumes. There'll be a committee that will go through them and the applications, and we will select some number of people to come in to have a first round interview. Our first round interviews are all remote. We do those all remotely. And then, because it is a two-step interview process at the third department. So once first round interviews are finished, we will then select some number of people to come back for a second round interview. And those interviews will be in person here at the third department. I'm expecting this to take place first round probably in October. Definitely in October, over a number of days, and then second round in person probably in beginning of November, but I don't have those dates worked out because those involve our clerk of our court and presiding Justice Gary. I also mentioned that for those people who are asked to come for a second interview. We do have a writing component as part of that. We tried to make that writing component not too time consuming. We don't want people to spend a lot of time on that, but that is an added component that we have to the process. For people who are selected, we try to make those offers pretty quickly in November, and then we give people time to, to consider the offers. And sometimes we have to go back and make additional offers because people have taken different clerkships or taken different positions, but we aim to have the whole process wrapped up sometime in mid-December-ish. And then, for those people who'll be joining the court, it runs in August. So this is where I was going before. People who are coming to the court straight from law school would graduate, take the bar, and then start with the court after the bar exam in sometime second or third week in August. Although not everybody who comes to the court is hired as an ACA will be coming straight from law school. There are some people who, spend a year different clerkship, or maybe they've been out a little bit and then they want to join the court, but a good majority of people are coming directly from law school. So that's the application process. That's the nuts and bolts of the program. I think that's all I wanted to mention, and I don't know if you want to ask questions now or however you want to work it, Meg.
Okay, well, maybe what we'll do is we'll go on. Well, first, let me ask, does anyone have a question that comes to mind that you'd like to ask Beth right now before we move on? Bevan?
Yeah, so I have a question. So I was on the website and I'm looking at the UCS 5 form.
Mm-hmm.
It says employment history, begin with your most recent employer. How far back do you want us to go with that?
On the UCS 5 form, I mean, there are other questions about employment on the UCS 5 form. That, by the way, is a form that it's not our form. That's not a third department form. That's a form that all employees for the applicants for positions with the court system are required to file. I mean, to be honest with you, we're much more concerned about the resume, in terms of your employment history. There are other questions I think that you'll see on there that, would pertain to, like, I think it asks, have you, I don't know what the language is, but something about, have you been dismissed from a position? I mean, that I don't think there's qualifications, and I will confess it's not my form, so I'm not expert on it. But as someone who's going to be reviewing the applications, I'm going to be focusing on for your employment, your employment history on your resume.
Okay, so just a follow up to that, do you want non-legal as well as legal employment history then?
I think it depends if you think it's relevant. I think if it shows something that, that you think is something you want the court to know about your employment history, back when I was a law student, my resume, we didn't have a lot of internships and externships. And so, and it's very different now. So, if you have a resume full of experience that you don't want to add, that you were, a pool attendant as, in high school, that's completely up to you. But if you think it's non-legal experience, but that experience you believe adds to the qualifications for the job, I say go ahead and add it.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, the only reason I asked is because I've had like a lot of jobs. I've got like 4 of them right now, but not all of them are legal in nature. So I feel like it would just clog up the form.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me. You'll have to do that when you ultimately, are talking about bar admission. That, that's a different.
Yeah, I understand.
Different. Yeah, but you got a little time for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anyone else before we move on? Okay, all right. Chelsea and Joey, we'll turn the floor over to you. Thank you, Beth.
Thanks everybody for coming to listen to us talk about these jobs today. They're, echo a lot of what Beth said. They're fantastic jobs. They're a great way to improve your research and writing skills. So, I mean, I'll just start with my background. I'm a principal court attorney here at the Court of Appeals. I've been in that position for about a little over a year now. Before that, I was a law clerk to Judge Stein at this court for a little less than 3 years. And before that, I was at the Appellate Division with Beth, working with Beth for 2 years as an ACA. Or for a year, and I started my second year and then went to work for Judge Stein. And before that, I started here as a court attorney, as a central staff attorney. So that was my first job, was here. And like Beth said, I have experience with both programs, and they're wonderful programs. So I hope people are interested in them. But as with the third department, this is, it's a research and writing job. So it's very similar in that regard. You want to have, make sure you have an interest in that before you're applying to this. This job is a little different in the type of reports you're preparing. So the Court of Appeals jurisdiction is more limited. Most of the appeals that come to this court, it can be any type of case. So the subject matter isn't necessarily more limited. It's very similar to the Appellate Division in that respect. But for the appeal to actually come to the Court of Appeals, the court generally is going to grant leave. So what central staff does is we prepare reports for the court, detailing the jurisdiction of a case, making sure that it is an appropriate case for the court. There's various doctrines on that are largely internal, but you'll become an expert in those in this job. And after you analyze the finality and all of those jurisdictional issues, if you love civil procedure, this is a really good job for you. If you like writing and civil procedure, that all ties into our jurisdiction. Then you move on to the merits of whatever the case may be. It could be torts, contracts, whatever it may be. It is civil, though. This job, unlike the Appellate Division job, is strictly civil. There are some quasi criminal aspects to it. We have a lot of SORA proceedings, Sex Offender Registration Act, that is considered civil under New York law, juvenile delinquency, but it's a civil job. So if you have a strong interest in criminal, that may deter you, but I will say, I think a lot of the skill sets transfer. A lot of our family court cases are very factual. So I think the writing and the research will transfer to criminal if that's what you want to do after the clerkship ends. So I didn't let you say who you were. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll let you do it.
When I speak, yeah.
So I mean, motions for leave to appeal, they are assigned to one judge initially. So on each report that you write for this court, you'll be preparing it. You'll go back and forth with a senior, your supervisor, and get the report to the top quality it can be. And you're going to make a recommendation on whether the issue is leave worthy or not, effectively. And what that means is it a case that is something that will have broader impact for the whole state of New York. That's typically what we're looking for on motions for leave. We're not just going to grant leave in any case here. It's probably less than 2 or 3% of cases come to this court from motions to leave. So we're looking for a split between the appellate divisions is one example, an obvious example. So your report will detail that more than necessarily whether the courts below were right or wrong, in your opinion. It's kind of a combination of both the merits of a case and the leave worthiness of a case, which also makes it a little different than the third department's job. So after you go back and forth with your report with your editor, it will be sent to the reporting judge, who will then review it, and they'll reach out to you and you'll go back and forth with them on it. So what makes this job a little different from an elbow clerkship is, and it's similar to the third in this respect, you have contact with every judge on the court. Every motion will be assigned to one of the judges, and during the time here, you'll very likely have some substantive conversations with with each judge of the court on one of the motions you work on. After that, they approve the report. And you circulate it to everybody else, the other 6 judges and all the other senior staff at the court. So everybody in this job, everybody will see your work product. And it's noticed. I think a lot of people are in law school they know more about elbow clerkships. It's more what you hear about in law school. But in an elbow clerkship, you're working for one judge. Here, everybody in the court knows the quality of your work and they appreciate your work, and it's important work. So don't rule out these jobs, whether it's here, the third department or the fourth, just because it's not with a specific judge. In a way, you're working with everybody, which is a very cool experience, I think. So I think the other thing that we work on a little bit less so than motions for leave are sua sponte merits appeals. You would probably only work on a couple while you're here, and what they are, they're the abbreviated appeals. They're often appeals that come as a right from the Appellate Division, which can happen in a couple different ways. So they don't need a motion for leave. There may be a double dissent at the Appellate Division on a question of law. There may be a substantial constitutional question. So there's a couple other more minor situations where a party has an appeal to the Court of Appeals as of right. And if it's on depending on what the issue is, if it's the law is well settled, the court may put the appeal on a separate track. And we often write reports on those cases on the civil side of the SSMs that are on the civil side. So in addition to writing motion reports, you may work on an appeal. You may get to draft a mem for that appeal, a short writing that the judges would then get to vote on or tweak as they would, of course. But so that's largely the job. Again, the difference between the third is that you're working on reports before the appeal is here. You're trying to help the court decide what its docket should be, rather than giving a recommendation on the actual appeal itself for the most part. Is there anything I missed?
I think that covers it. We can fill in the gaps as people have questions. As Meg mentioned, my name is Chelsea Cerutti Ducharme. Both Joey and I are court attorneys here on the Central Legal Research staff. And as Meg also mentioned, class of 2012. And briefly, as Joey mentioned, we've had the benefit of doing both of these clerkships and can really attest to the value. So I'm excited that you're all here and listening and interested. I started on central staff for 2 years, went to the Appellate Division, third department, was asked to stay back the second year, and then was hired by Associate Justice Christine Clark at the third department, where I worked with her for 6 years until I recently came here to rejoin the Central Legal Research staff. So what I wanted to talk to you about was some of the benefits of the job, right? You've heard about what the job is, and we hope that the benefits of a Court of Appeals clerkship is obvious, but there's some that might not be readily apparent. First and foremost, you have the opportunity to work in public service. As Joey mentioned, you're assisting the judges in selecting the court's docket, and in turn, really helping to decide what cases are going to shape the state of the law in New York. So that can be really exciting. You have the opportunity to work on some novel issues that are going to impact the lives of New Yorkers across the state, and helping the judges really pick and choose what cases are going to ultimately come before the court. So it can be really exciting. Additionally, it's as Beth mentioned and Joey mentioned, it's really great training at the start of your legal career. It really builds, you really get the foundational building blocks of research and writing. It's writing intensive. So of course we are looking for individuals who have strong writing to begin with, but I can attest that you're working on your writing day in and day out, and having done clerkships for the last 10 years, like your writing is improving day over day. You're honing your research skills, as Beth mentioned as well. You're exposed to all different types of law. You're going to pick something up that you've never seen before, and you're going to gain the confidence to reason your way through it and make a recommendation, which at the start of my career, I know was invaluable to pick up something that I thought was incredibly difficult and then realize that I can figure it out and work my way through it. And these are skills that you're going to carry on throughout your legal career, no matter what sector you end up in. And also exposure to civil procedure. You might not know how to practice. You've never practiced law before, or maybe you had your student practice order in a clinic or whatnot. But you're seeing how cases are litigated and how they are litigated well, and maybe sometimes how they're litigated poorly. And you can take those skills and that knowledge with you. Aside from the interesting, impactful work and the practical skills that you'll inevitably gain, you're going to make connections. So you're interacting with all 7 judges, 6 at the moment on the court. You're discussing your cases. Additionally, each term, at least one judge sits down with the central legal research staff to discuss notable motions or really anything that the court attorneys might have questions about. So it's an opportunity to get to know the judges, form a relationship with them, and in some cases they can become mentors or allies in your corner throughout the rest of your legal career. There's a lot of alum out in the legal community who have been through one or both of these programs and really know the value and the skills that you learn. So it can be a great springboard for whatever you do next. Some central staffers have gone on to do elbow clerkships, public service. Some, like the 3 of us, have stayed in the court system, which maybe might not be apparent. It certainly was not apparent to me in law school that was a long-term career path. And I feel very fortunate that it turned out to be. Turning to the more tangible benefits, I think the court systems have very competitive salary. Here, I believe for the first year, it's starting somewhere in the ballpark of $87,000. That my understanding is that could go up as new contracts are negotiated. And then there's a pretty significant salary increase between the first and the second year. I don't know that exact number, but it's nearing 100,000, I think. Other benefits, really excellent healthcare, dental, vision. And if you plan to continue on or aspire to serve in public service throughout your career, really great retirement benefits. Great. So now you've heard about the job.
I had one other thing. So we didn't, Beth kind of alluded to this, but so this is a 2-year job automatically. So, and we were Chelsea was just alluding to it too. So you're hired for a 2-year commitment. And so in your second year, for the most part, most people, as long as they're doing the job sufficiently and are, doing what they should be doing, they'll become a senior court attorney, and that's why you get the bump typically. So yeah, I think that's it. And then the only other thing I wanted to add, we have alums, and this is true for the 3rd department too, but we have alums in everything you could imagine. People from the last couple of years have gone on to federal circuit court clerkships. We've had people go to federal district court. We have people in federal government, state government, large law firms, Albany law firms. And those connections we have connections to those to the people in those places. We can help people find those positions that they're looking for after they want to leave, or when it's time to leave. So it's a good network to be a part of, I think.
For sure. So now we wanted to talk about how to apply. Similar to the third department, the Court of Appeals, for those of you in the audience that are 2Ls, the posting, you can go to the Court of Appeals website here. And I believe applications are accepted between June and through now. Like the third department, the deadline to apply for this upcoming year, August of 2023 to 2025, expires October 7th. So Friday, October 7th.
You can see there everything that you need. It's
Yeah.
similar to what Beth was saying.
The USC 5 form as well is required for us.
Same form. Unedited writing sample, of course, means self-edited, but unedited by a third person. I was recently asked to clarify that. So, the committee wants to see your writing and know that it's from you. And because again, that's his whole job. So they're looking for strong writers, people that want to improve their writing and are okay with feedback on writing, because there's a lot of that. And that's true your first year and your 10th year when you work in the court system. That's what we all do. So you're always going to be getting feedback. And it, like Chelsea said, it makes you better as time goes on. So
The two letters of recommendation, those don't have to be included in your initial application packet, but if you receive an interview, they do have to be provided later. So for 2Ls, next summer, it's time to, for 2Ls, at the end of the summer, you should be thinking about who you're going to ask to write letters of recommendation. Professors get busy. So ask early and be thinking about those relationships that you're forming as you're going on in your academic legal career. An undergrad transcript that again is required if offered an interview. So to the extent you need to request one, or if you don't have one, you might want to work on that. You can apply by mail or by email, as it says on the screen. With respect to qualifications, in the past, typically those who are hired to be on central staff have been generally in the top 10 to 15% of the class, but every application is read and the application is viewed holistically. So if there are little blips in your academic record, maybe a class that wasn't so great that brought down your GPA or some circumstance, those types of things can be explained in cover letters and letters of recommendation. So just keep that in mind, especially for those entering in your second year. I think we wanted to mention for the 2Ls, if you're thinking of applying in the future and thinking about how to best situate yourself, think about journal experience, availing yourself of writing classes or other experiences that give you the ability to further improve your writing skills, right? We're always improving. Maybe
judicial field placements, things like that.
Yeah, maybe it could be, you could get that experience a number of different ways.
Yeah.
Maybe a clinic, moot court. You can be proactive in availing yourself of those opportunities. What else, Joey?
I think that's pretty much it. Again, it's a fantastic job. You work with, in both courts, some of the smartest people I've met in my life. They are some great attorneys here. And they'll really, one of our supervisors calls it an advanced writing degree. And that's really what it is. You will probably leave this court the best writer you will ever be. If you go onto a law firm, you will never be as good of a writer as you are when you leave either of these programs, because just the number of people you have to help you get better at it. So it's great training, and we hope a lot of people are interested and will apply.
And our emails are both up on the screen, so you are welcome to email us if you, we'll certainly field questions now. But if you think of questions down the line, 2Ls, if you, have questions as the year goes on, we're available to field those.
Oh, I would add too, because Beth mentioned it. I think the so there is a writing component for our interview process too. So you would do that during your interview while you're here, I believe. And the other thing I was going to mention, I think here they typically make the decision by the deadline was later this year. So I'm not sure how much this will change, but typically it's by the end of October, probably early November. So I think it's compared probably a little bit earlier than the 3rd, but in the same general ballpark for when they decide when they make their offers, I believe. So you can expect to know certainly before the semester ends. So, yeah.
Thank
If there's
you
any
both.
questions.
Thank you. Any questions? And Beth just shared her contact information as well in the chat. So please feel free to grab that. And just to remind you, so the Appellate Division's deadline is this Friday, the 30th. And we can see that the Court of Appeals is October 7th. Anyone have any other questions? Okay, well, if not, then I would just like to thank you all for attending today's program and would like to extend a special appreciation to our speakers today. Thank you for taking the time to meet with students. We truly appreciate your continued support. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for setting it up, Meg.
We appreciate it.
Bye, Joey. Good to see you. Bye, Chelsea. Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye, Beth.
Beth.
Talk
Thank
soon.
you so much, Meg.